Fantastic. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our 1-year anniversary Advancement Tableau User Group event. I am Ron Eisenstein, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-leaders, Jesse Rader, Elisa Davis, and Mohammed Dasser. We're very happy for you to be a part of this group, which has grown to over 1,000 people in 1 year, and I have my nephew who's here for sound effects. Thank you, Daniel. All right, in this 1 year, I just want to emphasize that our mission remains the same, and it's to connect advancement professionals to make them more productive and successful. All right, so let's go through the agenda for today. We have the raffle coming up. I am so excited to have our featured guest today, Matthew Platt from Tableau, and Brent Grinna from Evertrue, and we are talking about data-driven fundraising. Unfortunately, Sterrin couldn't make it today, so Matthew is doing double the work. So thank you so much for that, Matthew. And like other events, we start off with a raffle prize. And this raffle prize strawberry cake, I got distracted. Yes, fantastic. The first raffle prize, this is a purchase on the Tableau store. This is the prize for up to $100. So you choose the item from the Tableau store, and the first person to direct message Jesse will get this prize. And let's ready, first ready. This is, here we go. And this, what keyboard short dashboard is Elisa's, who is on this call and is honored and recognized right now as a Tableau featured author on Tableau Public, which is huge. Out of hundreds of thousands of authors out there, she is one of the, I think, 12 or 16. It's amazing. Very, very cool. All right, so send your...
Jake Tolbert was on top of it. It was like, you barely got it out wrong. Jake is our winner.
Jake.
In addition to being disqualified, I was like, I think I recognize that. Is that my dashboard?
Yes, I saw a smile come to your face, and congratulations, Jake. And great to see you. I'm glad you can join. Hope you can present at some future Tableau user group, by the way. Anyways, so moving on.
Did we say the answer? Sorry.
Oh, so the answer. Go ahead.
Is
Jesse.
G on your keyboard. Hit G and the grid lines will show up.
What is that? That is,
which is helpful when you're, especially something like this, where you're trying to get things aligned.
Right? You want everything pixel perfect.
I did not know that shortcut.
We're gonna do another one next time. If you didn't win, don't worry. Hope you learned something new. And now we are moving on to our keynote speaker. We have two, Matthew Platt. Thank you so much. Senior Solution Engineer at Tableau. Please take it away.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ron. Hey guys, nice to meet everyone that's here on the line, and those of you that are listening to the recording. My name is Matthew Platt, like Ron said, Senior SE here with Tableau. Been here a little bit over 3 years, helping our education and nonprofit customers see and understand their data. I'm really happy to be here today. I haven't presented in a TUG in a really long time, so it's nice to just feel the energy in the room and that, I guess, excitement about Tableau. Today we're going to talk about data-driven fundraising. We're going to take the next step and see how we can make predictions on what our donations are going to be, and how our fundraisers can really use those predictions to be more proactive in their day-to-day instead of reactive. I really like to start on this slide, and I'm going to jump back and forth to it because it really gives us a perspective, I think, on really how data-driven our organization actually is. If you look at this chart on that left side, we have value on the y-axis, difficulty along the bottom. And with Gartner survey, they mentioned that most organizations are in that descriptive analytics phase. They're trying to understand what's happening with their data. And a lot of times that's really hard for organizations, even just to get to that first step. And when we think about moving along this timeline, trying to understand like why things have happened, what will happen, and then be more proactive to prescribe things beforehand, it gets really difficult. And why is that difficult? If we were thinking about trying to look into the future, we need some analytical models to look at our data and really analyze it in a way that we don't have the bandwidth to do. So we're going to take a step here today to talk about how we can get to that prescriptive step. So first, I want to talk about this first step because this is where most organizations are, the majority. And what does descriptive analytics actually mean? How are organizations using Tableau to analyze their fundraising information and take action on it? So I have a couple of examples here, and I like to call them art of the possible examples. And I'm going to walk through them relatively quickly for the sake of time, but feel free to put some questions or comments in the chat, however you'd like. There are a couple dashboards here that I created. This first one is just an executive overview. What is happening with my donations? How much have we raised today? How many asks have we sent out there? And then this gives us a pretty good view of the change in propensity to give over time. So being able to come in, ask questions of my data, I can see the row level data about my donors. What is their attrition risk? So this it gives us that what's happening. This is a little bit of, maybe we could think about this and take some next steps, right? That's a little bit of data that we could kind of figure out why things are happening, that second step. What if we wanted to go a little bit more granular and look at our top donors? So let's say maybe a fundraiser could look at these top donors and maybe use this as a tool to try and figure out where they need to, what campaigns they need to work with, or how they're going to coordinate their fundraising. So similar situation, I could see the locations of where my funders actually are. Again, being able to interact with Tableau, find more specific data if I want to look at specific donors and see kind of what's happening with their donations. Oftentimes as I was manipulating this data and looking through it, that this donation amount is going down for almost every single donor. I think except for a couple. So if I was using this dashboard as a tool, here's one that's going up a little bit. If I was using this as a tool, trying to understand why this is happening is that difficult part. That's that next step that most folks that we need to get to, but it's just really difficult for us to achieve. So we know that we have this data and we know that this is happening, but what do we do to try and fix that? Or how can we be more proactive to understand that and get ahead of it? So jumping back to this analytics maturity model, we talked about what descriptive analytics is. We understand most of your organizations are doing this today. Let's move up this to see what it looks like to be more prescriptive. And I would actually personally challenge this Gartner model a little bit. Just because I don't necessarily like the nomenclature of difficulty. It's very subjective. I think what we're about to talk about, Einstein discovery, really allows people, I'm not an analyst, I'm not a data scientist, but it allows people to do this prescriptive analytics with the click of a button and not have to know how to write those, cumbersome analytical models that are difficult to maintain. So I would say, not necessarily difficulty, but maybe maturity, et cetera, could be a better word, because oftentimes, and I'm going to show you, we can do some of this prescriptive analytics without having for it to be difficult. So what does that mean? How are we actually doing this? And with Tableau, we have an integration with a feature called Einstein discovery. So what is Einstein discovery? So it's an AI-powered analytics platform, basically, that allows those end users to automatically discover relevant patterns based on their data. It allows them to make predictions on specific fields. If I want to maximize or maybe maximize my donations, minimize my attrition, those specific things. The important part is that it's no code machine learning, and it has a prototyping environment that still allows the user to manipulate the model, but they don't actually have to know R in order to manipulate it and make it work for them. Behind the scenes, we can really get into it to choose the type of model that is running, so that even you and I can actually validate that the data that's coming through it is relevant. It's not necessarily a black box type of product. So what would we actually do in order to make this happen with Tableau? We're going to obviously want to use the exact same data that's pumping into our dashboard. We want that data to be, I guess, governed and the exact same, mirroring it. And the ability to upload data into Einstein Discovery is very similar to that in Tableau. If you're connecting to a server or a database out there, we can also bring that data in via those platforms. For this demo build, I just used a CSV and built the dashboard, and then used the CSV to create the model as well. So whatever you'd like, I like to keep it as simple as possible, but we just want to make sure that those data sets are mirroring, so those predictions are correct. So let's jump over. I know I'm changing slides a bit, but now I want to kind of show you what that prescriptive and predictive analytics could look like in Tableau. So I have this sweet dashboard. I was able to get to an extent of answering my questions, but what is that next step, and what does Einstein Discovery actually look like in Tableau? So same dashboard that I'm jumping from previously, but you'll notice in the bottom right, I have an actual prediction score that Einstein Discovery has created for me. And this is looking at, I've created a model where I would like to maximize my donations. And I told Einstein Discovery that, hey, there are certain fields in my data that we need to look at a little bit more than others, maybe events or donation type. Those specific fields may impact the donation amount of those donors. So we can see, I'm thinking within this next year, we're looking at about almost $90,000 in donations, which kind of correlates with what we're seeing of our historical donations. I can understand that seems relatively right. What are some of the predictors and how can we improve this? So here's where we can manipulate the model to make sure that it's fitting with our data. So it mentions that there's actually no event scheduled for 40 of these rows. They're donating via credit card. Maybe we need to invite them to more events. Are they invited to our gala yet? What does that look like? So we're looking at almost $8,000 or so just right there in possible loss of donations. And then if they are invited to the gala, what's their expected donation there at the gala? But changing that event, possibly changing that donation type as well, it just gives us that next step of data and information that we can use. Before we move on, I want to, even interacting with this, just how Tableau is able to filter and interact with the data, it's also going to change based on the interactions that you put into the dashboard. So I could see, what are my predicted donations just for the area of Charleston? What does it look like for Avondale? And being able to go in, and possibly these predictors and these improvements would be different for each location depending on different factors that are in the data. But this allows us to think about and kind of forecast, what are our possible donations? What is my next step in order of in fundraising for this year? And be able to take action on it specifically. The last thing that I want to show before I wrap up is inside the CRMA platform and Analytics Studio, To create this, I just used that exact same data set here, that CSV that I pumped into this platform, and it created that model for me, and I was able to integrate it into my Tableau dashboard. The way that it's integrated via the Tableau dashboard is just using our Einstein Discovery extension. And you would just pull that out and sign into that CRMA platform to get that model. So ultimately, most organizations are starting at that descriptive phase. It's most value to move on up that line to more predictive and prescriptive. It's going to make your organization more proactive instead of reactive, and just be able to be better fundraisers and more of a data-driven organization ultimately, but not necessarily making it more difficult per se, just fitting into the confines of what you're currently doing.
This is fantastic. Matthew, I think there's a few questions out there, and I'll let Jesse post that, but I do have one pressing one. Well, let's say it's pressing. If someone wants to learn more, I mean, this is a taste of what's possible. There's the access, there's all this great stuff that people could have access to. They could explore it. What do you suggest if they want to learn more and talk deeper about this topic?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is this product, Einstein Discovery, has been around for a long time. It's not a brand new product. So if you were to hop online and search around for Einstein Discovery, what's happening with the models behind it, how to actually use it, things like that. All of that information is out there. What is new is the integration into the Tableau dashboard. So with that, with that kind of behind the scenes information, I would say do a little bit of Googling on your own. Also reach out to your Tableau AE, and someone like me, the SE, can hop on the phone and we can talk through your specific use case, how you would use it, things like that.
And if you don't know who your account exec is, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to forward that along to folks and get you connected. Jesse, do you want to, there's some questions out there. Do you want to pose them?
Yeah, there's been some questions in the chat. If anyone wants to unmute and ask questions, they feel free to do that as well. The first one was, you mentioned you created this data set. Is there anything fundraiser superstore style out there that we could use that in our demos that wouldn't, show we're kind of in a world of a lot of private information? Do you know of anything like that, Matthew, or is your data set available to use?
I don't know of anything off the top of my head. In Tableau Public, there are some sample data sets. Let me look through what's in there, and then if there's nothing available, we can definitely kind of create something like that, just for examples. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So 2 questions about Einstein. One is, do you need to be on a Salesforce CRM? And then also, does it allow you to download the data and use it externally?
2 really great questions, and I'm really glad the first one came up, because that's not something that I put into the presentation. You don't have to be on Salesforce as your CRM to use Einstein Discovery for the predictions. What we're going to do is you're going to purchase one license to be able to access the platform and be able to make that data connection, build the models. And then from there, you can integrate any of those models that are created into any of your Tableau dashboards. If you are a CRM user, amazing. But if not, you have the ability to do this without it.
I guess a follow-up question for that, knowing from my higher ed background that the people who are going to be most excited about discovery are not necessarily going to be the decision makers. I'm just thinking of the hurdles I would have had to jump to get the Tableau extension installed and to have sort of a proof of concept for the Einstein Discovery. Is there a trial period, or do you know of anyone who's successfully using this for fundraising that we could invite to present at the next TUG meeting or point people to as a customer success story?
Let me follow up with you on that one.
Absolutely.
I have some customers in mind. I don't want to throw their names out there, but
Yeah.
Let me follow up with you with some actual customer stories that we can distribute and just show success using this in ease of use, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you could pull your dashboard back up, there's a question about how you use the box plot. Have you found a good way to do user training so people understand how to read those?
Not necessarily. I don't. That you stumped me with that one. I don't necessarily, but I can figure out who could talk to that point for sure. Let me pull it back up really quickly, and we can look at it. Is there
And
one
if
more
anyone else
question in the
has
meantime?
any other questions, you can unmute. Feel free to participate. I see a lot of some folks, and I noticed that one of the names looked very familiar. Christopher Amherst, I think you have like I think I saw on LinkedIn, you have a publication that just was released about tech debt. That looked very cool, by the way. Congratulations. Any other questions? Okay, awesome.
There may have been one that I missed previously as well, but yeah, feel free to put it in the chat.
Yeah, feel free. Matthew, that was fantastic. You know, I think in the world of Tableau, we're always thinking about what we're producing. And the ultimate question is why something is happening. So this is getting to the next step and what to do about it, right? Like the engagement around events is definitely one that is central to the advancement, right? That engagement and that correlation between that and giving. All right, fantastic. Awesome. So next up, we have Brent Grinna. Thanks again, Matthew. It was awesome. And when I got a couple requests, I will, yes, I'm getting several requests to have my nephew participate. Hit it. All right, cool. That was cool. Awesome. Thank you, Daniel. Brent, I'm so excited for you to present. I will let you take it from here.
Let me show you as you can.
Thanks, Ron. Really appreciate. Can we all agree there should be more hype music and sounds as part of our Zoom meetings? I mean, we're a couple years into this dynamic, and I feel like the air horn has its place for sure. So thank you all. It's a pleasure to be here. And it's great to both see so many familiar names, but also a whole bunch of folks that I know that I've never had the opportunity to cross paths with. And so we'll try to build on everything that we just heard about from Matthew. I love the reference to the maturity model. I was trying to figure out how to create a poll quickly so I could figure out where we all think we are on that maturity model, and I failed to do so. So maybe just like hit the clap emoji if you think you're at, and let me just see where we are. Phase 1, descriptive analytics. Hit the clap emoji at 2, diagnostic analytics. Predictive, what do we think is going to happen? And then prescriptive, I always think of this one as, what should I do? You know, tell me what to do and why. Okay, well, not quite a scientific poll, but next time we'll keep that in mind. I do want to just quickly introduce myself. I'm Brent Grinna, founder and CEO at Evertrue. You can, I believe, the people tell me you can scan that QR code with your phone and we can become friends on the world's leading professional network. Otherwise, you can always shoot me a note at brent@evertrue.com. Follow me on Twitter. Not a lot of insight being shared there these days, but I'm available on the channels. Did really appreciate Matthew's commentary, and I think we're all feeling so much potential. I think in some cases, maybe we're all 1, 2, 3, and 4, depending on the day of the week, the time of the day, what we're working on. There are days when I feel like we're really making tremendous progress all the way up at the top. And then there are other days when I can barely tell what happened. And I'm sure everybody can empathize with that range of emotions. I just want to share a little bit about my entrepreneurial journey for those who don't know as much about Evertrue. By way of background, and especially with a kind of advancement-oriented audience, I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere in Iowa. Neither of my parents went to college, and my dream was to be a first-generation college student. I was the oldest of 3 boys and was really fortunate to get recruited by Brown University to play football. Had some amazing mentors in the alumni community, helped me navigate my career search. which ultimately led me to work in investment banking and private equity for 4 years. And then I had the opportunity to attend Harvard Business School and pursue my MBA. While I was there, one of my friends from Brown in the advancement office reached out and they said, Brent, you've been a good volunteer with the football team and the local chapter in Chicago. We would love it if you'd consider leading your 5th reunion fundraising campaign. And I said, absolutely. How can I help? And they sent me that spreadsheet from Advance in the lower right, slapped the word confidential on top, and I've been showing it in presentations ever since. The spreadsheet was out of date. It was inaccurate. They had my classmates coded as lost alumni who were more findable on the social and digital web than ever before. And it was clear there was a tremendous disconnect between who my classmates were, how they were living their lives increasingly in the social and digital sphere, and what the institution actually knew about them in their underlying system of record. And so that was a catalyst to really look around and say, what else is going on in this space? And I found out that the nonprofit fundraising tech stack in 2010 didn't have much tech. In fact, we were throwing a lot of manual interventions and spreadsheets like the one that I received at a whole host of those issues. Meanwhile, the rest of the world was being transformed, and we were all starting to binge on Netflix and order things on our phone and be able to find a restaurant with a moment's notice and have the perfect house in the right neighborhood pushed to us at the right time. And we didn't even have to wait in the rain for taxis anymore. Yet I was still getting outdated spreadsheets on a weekly basis as we advanced toward our reunion fundraising goal. And so that was a catalyst to start EverTrue. I named the company EverTrue after Brown's fight song, Ever True to Brown, which plays when the football team scores touchdowns, which I did one time my junior year against Dartmouth. And we're now fortunate to be offering a combination of data software and program management services, along with analytics and benchmarking, really designed to bring that modern experience to the giving pyramid so that more kids like me and my brothers can get access to college and that fundraisers can be empowered to spend less time wading through inaccurate spreadsheets. And we're really fortunate at this point to now be working with over 2,000 nonprofit customers and higher ed institutions, including a majority of the leaders in the space. But why are we here today? The Tableau community is a new one for me, and I'm really pleased to be able to join this community and learn from all of you in the coming months and years. But I think it's fair to say that we're all here because in some form or another, you all have had that same issue that I had as a volunteer 12 years ago, either in trying to provide insights and information to your colleagues or as a recipient trying to make sense of this incredible growth of data that we have not only in our systems of record, but that are now compounding across the web with social channels and every, frankly, application that is being adopted across campus. The digital footprint of our alumni, donors, and friends is growing every single day. So we're never going to have less data than we have right now. Yet, even in 2022, I see countless examples of inaccurate spreadsheets being shared with volunteers and staff members. And so I think we're all going to be in our kind of anti-spreadsheet mode for the foreseeable future. And the hope is we can continue to make progress. Now, I thought in advance of getting together with this group, it would make sense even for me to just be reminded of some of the origins and learn a little bit more about the why behind this work and the importance of data visualization, and frankly, a lot of the factors that have driven Tableau's incredible success. But I share this really as you all work to advocate within your organizations for additional either staff or budget to make these sorts of investments. Sometimes getting back to the basics might be able to help, even as you're making the case with your own leadership teams, or if you've got skeptical colleagues. And so it was London, 1854. There was this guy. Anybody know this guy? Actually, that's kind of a pop quiz because I don't think we included his name on the slide. Anybody know who this is? His name is, and I'm not making this up, one day after House of the Dragon debuted on HBO, but this is Jon Snow. Not the King of the North, but a different Jon Snow. And this was 1854. And London was living through a time actually similar to what we've all just lived through. They had a cholera epidemic that was ravaging the town, and they were trying to figure out where it was coming from, what the causes were. Victorian science wasn't quite at the level that we were, not a lot of mRNA going on. And so there was basically two competing principles. One school of thought was that this was an airborne disease, that people were breathing on each other, and that was spreading cholera. But this guy, John Snow, had a hypothesis that cholera was actually being spread through the water system. But how do you prove one way or the other? The same way that we've all had to watch, this sort of analysis play out over the last couple of years. And what John Snow ended up doing was eerily familiar. He basically created a CSV file before they had computers. And he went around and basically did like a census of the neighborhood. And he went door to door, trying to figure out who each Londoner was who had had cholera, what their home address was, and then was trying to make sense of essentially this database that he was developing. Really eerily similar to what I was doing with the 5th Reunion campaign in 2010. And so what John did, because making a compelling argument and flashing this on the screen isn't going to work for very many folks, he started to then cross-reference that let's call it, the world's first, mapping visualization. And he was essentially trying to categorize door to door where the density of cholera actually was. And as he refined the work, it became clearer and clearer that he could essentially pinpoint the exact water pump that was infected with contaminated water that was really the source of this pandemic. And so that is known as Broad Street. And there's plenty of, if you look up Broad Street cholera 1854, you can go down the memory lane that I just took you down. And it was a really powerful moment where John Snow essentially took this mapping data to city officials and convinced them to just break the pump handle on that water pump. And guess what happened? It worked. And that is just, I think, a timeless example of what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure we've got the right data, whether it's a handwritten CSV file or an actual one, or a Snowflake database. Do we have the right data in the first place? And then can we visualize it to be able to draw conclusions? And then can we use that information to advocate for some sort of action? And in this case, the action was breaking the pump handle. And I find that to be just an inspiring example. But there are reasons for this. And without trying to overrepresent my knowledge on this subject, there are just some common principles around why the map view is more intuitive than the spreadsheet view. And that applies to cholera in 1854 and advancement in 2022. But ultimately, we have this, and I double checked on YouTube pronunciation guide, extrastriate cortex, which is where the brain processes the visual information. The optic nerve at the back of your eye goes straight to it, AKA the superhighway for visual data. And so as humans, it takes a lot more for our brains to interpret numbers or text than it does to interpret pictures and images like the one that John Snow developed. There is a reason, right? We weren't born knowing how to read or do math, but at a pretty young age, we knew to run away when the lion was chasing us. And that is rooted in the same interpretation here. So as it relates to just some fun facts, when your boss says, but why do we need more investment in XYZ? Well, our brain processes that information 60,000 times faster than the numbers or text. You remember 30% of what we read and 80% of what we see or do. And bringing it full circle to the modern sort of contemporary era, Facebook posts with images get 87% more engagement than those with text alone. Adding images to tweets makes them 150% more likely to be retweeted. So if you're trying to boost the follower count, folks, just drop a photo or two in there. But as much progress as we've made, sometimes we still do it wrong. So here's an example of what not to do. And we've all done this. I have done this. You've done it. I know you have. Maybe you're doing it this week. This is not ideal. And I think we can all understand that, pie charts, they've got their place, but they've also got their limits. And recognizing that, choosing the right type of visualization for the right point that one is trying to make, right? Jon Snow's example of a map trying to pinpoint water issues, very good example. Pie charts trying to show year-over-year changes, tough example, not to mention 16 segments, just too many. Ultimately, we all know that we should be able to look at the visualization and without too much interpretation, know what we should do with the information. For example, right, CSV on the left, simple example on the right. Where's the outlier? We can process it so much more quickly. Now we could all probably have gone number by number and figured it out eventually. I'm trying to do it now and I don't have time, so I'm going to stop. I think 20, no, I don't know. And so that is ultimately the question that we just need to help our colleagues who maybe have less passion, enthusiasm, curiosity around this topic. We've just got to make sure that without a lot of interpretation, they know what should I do with this. And so on that note, we're working really hard as a company. We have chosen Tableau as our partner. We are making a multi-million-dollar investment in Tableau embedded analytics to really take EverTrue analytics to the next level. There are certain things that we feel really uniquely positioned to add to the ecosystem, while recognizing that there is such a long tail of specific custom requests that no one organization could ever get to it all, which is why we hope that in the future, a blend of cross-platform comprehensive analytics embedded natively via Tableau, along with really bespoke work that so many of you are doing for the sector, is going to be a powerful combination. And so with that, I do want to kick it over to my colleague, Ron, who can just walk through some of the examples that we're really excited about. And at the same time, we're so eager to continue to learn from you all, and even seeing some of Matthew's examples. The show and tell aspect of this is definitely the best. So let's show, Ron.
Yeah, I was definitely inspired. And I think one of the biggest mistakes, the biggest mistake I had when I was starting Tableau is believing that I had learned everything. And that was a huge mistake, because several years past, that was lost opportunity. So related to what Brent said, that view of the brain, the very first thing that your brain recognizes is luminance, brights and darks. And so your visualizations can feature as few colors as possible so that people have instantaneous understanding of what they're looking at. So we are encoding data into colors, and this view is the entire portfolio population of a given fundraising shop. And fundraising is hard to do. You are spinning plates and you need constant engagement. So if you aren't constantly engaging, you have people who are dropping off, and those are lost opportunities. And that's why the work that you do is so important and so revenue generating. So this looks at the entire population from the VP's perspective. 341 out of the 1,134 assigned prospects have been contacted, engaged within the first 4 months. You want to make it interactive. So perhaps you want to adjust that at your organization. You can use that with the parameter, etc. And when you look at this, leadership will, when they look at this, they will stop talking about the dashboard and focus on what should we be doing better. And that's what's golden. Your ideal visualizations and dashboards will be the intersection of process and reporting. So here we can see division-wide, we have 462. What's that next question? You always want to think about, what is that thing that people want to know? I see Elisa nodding her head. I think you've gotten that quite often, right? With all of the dashboards you've done. We have 19 1 million plus who you've engaged, and then the fear of missing out. You have 23 who haven't been engaged. And then who are we talking about? These are the folks. So you want to go high level to the individual. And then what's that next viewpoint? Well, clearly not everyone's being engaged. So let's look department by department. Let's look proportionally because everyone's doing something slightly different. And then down to the individual because some folks within departments are doing better than others. So that is the first view of calling that portfolio engagement. That's like your last contact, your last visit. Make it dynamic and always think about what is that next thing people are trying to achieve. And probably most importantly, try to make it as simple as possible too. Changing gears a bit. One of the super slick things that Evertrue does is they have we have a DXO program, and this is a telefund. A lot of people are moving from the telefund to this kind of multi-channel engagement process, and there's so much to it that we're focusing on, and this is a view of all of the interactions. This is sample data of all of the folks who we are engaging, and we as are the DXOs, the donor experience officers at an organization. And for example, you're looking at FY22 and see how I'm color coding these things. This is always nice to do because there's less to explain. Color coding is really helpful so you don't have as many legends. So we can see by channel, for example, overall engagement, like what's that next level thing? So all at a high level, what are the touch points that have been made with all of these prospects by particular fundraiser? How many contacts? How many prospects? And then looking year over year. And I saw a post recently that year over year isn't helpful. Someone wrote that, I think, as a provocative LinkedIn post. I disagree. You do need context, of course. So here we can see from year over year, the selected year versus the previous year, you see 312 meetings, which was an increase. It's always nice to do the plus minus percent. Throw that into your visualizations. People appreciate those quick stats. And you can see phone and email and LinkedIn has gone down a little bit. This is just one of the channels, right? And you typically want to know why. So this is a great opportunity to do one of those Viz and tooltips, right? So you can see, oh my God, it's already a little bit into 2022 and there's been no LinkedIn engagements. But here, if you go a little bit further, you can see that month to month and cumulative. People, there are these sub-stories there, right? So like 2021, there was a huge increase, but overall, what was the difference between that and the fiscal year totals? And then a subtle way of creating competition within fundraisers is ordering it by people who have done the most. So you see Juan and Tanya here, and then comparative. How is Juan doing compared to himself? And then you always want to have interaction as well. So let's look at Juan's. And a tip that I learned, if you create an action, right? When you click on something, you'll get an action in the shelf. If you turn that into a all data source, you can actually drill down to just see one person, which is something that I learned, which is an important lesson because every dashboard means an opportunity to learn. If you aren't learning, you aren't pushing yourself. Maybe I'll pause for questions. Anything else any questions out there?
Ron, those were really cool. And while people are formulating their questions, if you want to share your dashboard again and hover over one of the tooltips, I really love how you took the data points and you put them into bullet points and sentences that interpreted the mark for people.
Thank you. Yeah, it's nice to sort of create a language that people can copy and paste, right? It shortens the time for understanding, right? And then Jake's point about how do you make it easier to understand, right? Those are the types of questions we should be asking ourselves, right? And anytime someone looks at your visualization as like looks perplexed, that's an opportunity to improve, and it's not an IQ test for them, right? So for example, let's see,
Yeah, I love that.
312 meetings were scheduled. It's nice to kind of do like a little bit bigger. You can do really subtle things, right? Just put it into sentences. That the defaults for Tableau, I highly recommend changing whatever it is with the defaults to like something that looks a little, it makes it crisper. All right.
The only question I saw in the chat was about the availability of these dashboards, Ron.
Absolutely. So some of these dashboards are viewable on my Tableau public page, but these dashboards, we will be rolling out versions of them. I believe every month we're going to start bringing folks on, and with a end goal of having something ready January 1st. Aaron, is that I'm gonna put you on the spot, my wonderful, lovely Solus colleague.
Yes, hi guys. Yeah, so we're developing these dashboards as a composite set of dashboards. They'll be available in the EverTrue platform, and people can start looking for those to be released to the public right around the time you come back from your holiday break. But in the meantime, if anybody's interested in learning more about those or wants to talk about those, Ron and I are always happy to talk turkey when it comes to these dashboards. We also are going to be at the Raise conference on Wednesday. So that's the EverTrue conference. It's virtual, it's free to attend, and Ron and I will be staffing a booth so we can get into it in terms of what the plan is and sort of what we're looking forward to.
Thank you so much, Aaron. And one of the things I started doing advancement reporting in 2001 through 2018, and then as part of the Solus group. And one thing that I felt very personally is that every time you create something new, it spawns new dashboards. It spawns new questions. So then you are presented with opportunities to do additional bespoke work, right? Like going even deeper using your data. Let me kick it over to Brent.
Yeah, I mean, I'll bring it home, Ron. And I think just to put a finer point on some of what you were sharing, not everybody has the same level of familiarity with the DXO concept. But essentially, you can think of it like inside sales meets fundraising. Instead of going and visiting people 100 times a year, what if I could connect with 1,000 people in a more remote first post-pandemic context? And so the way that work is often done is through a prescriptive touchpoint plan. So when you talk about prescriptive, this isn't exactly analytics, but prescriptive workflows. What do I do on day 1, day 5, day 10, day 15? How do we really kind of take the human judgment out of, should I follow up with my prospect today? Or I've got my little to-do list, who am I supposed to get back in touch with, or sticky notes all over my office, right? And so just trying to move into, hey, there is a best practice for how to engage a prospect. This might seem pretty intense, but speaking of visualizations, I just dusted this one off. We've evaluated this kind of outreach across our customer community, and we have found that it takes 6.6 attempts for a gift officer to get a meeting. Every single one of you could go back and create your own version of this chart to figure out how much outreach is needed by our development officers to secure a meeting, assuming that they log their contact reports. Won't go down that path. But this was something that was really eye-opening because many leaders looked at this and said, are you kidding me? Reaching out to somebody 6 times? That's like harassing the donor. You can't reach out that much. Wrong. If you don't, you will not engage people in the same way. And so this was just an example. I think everybody could, come up with your own version of how much outreach is required to secure a visit. And then you could look at that within a plan giving cohort, or you could look at it with a, first time, never before assigned cohort, or you could look at it with loyalty levels, but just being able to get a sense of that outreach across channels is something that has been pretty eye-opening. And yeah, just in concluding, we acquired the Solus Group in March. It's been amazing working with Ron and Aaron, share just so much authentic passion and commitment for this sector. It's been an absolute blast, and we're really excited about investing deeply in the Tableau community natively in EverTrue, but also being a part of the community. So if there are templates, examples, guides that we can provide, we recognize not everybody is going to become an EverTrue customer, and that's okay. We are just really, really excited about being able to really participate in this just massive adoption of Tableau within the advancement community. And so I've already had a couple of LinkedIn connects. Thanks to those of you who took me up on that. Would welcome the opportunity to stay in touch after this, and do just want to reiterate, we've got a free roadmap day, a lot of best practices and examples, including Ron and Aaron with the booth, evertrue.com/raise. Very minimal commitment, so no worries if you're tied up. We'll be recording everything and sharing it out afterwards. It's going to be, I think, a lot of fun. They tell me it's going to be fun. I'm hopeful. So with that, why don't we just pause, see if there's any other questions or comments. And yeah, Becky, I shouldn't have even said the word contact report. It's not that kind of presentation, right? All right, Ron and team, bring us home. Maybe we'll give people a few minutes back in their day.
I had Ron, you're on mute. So while you're fixing that, I had one
Enthusiasm
question,
was not
Brent.
heard.
Is there a story behind the cornfield?
Is there a story? But I grew up in a cornfield, basically, is the punchline. I'm not sure how. So we did our Raise conference last year, and we did a lot of the shoot in Iowa where I grew up.
Mhm.
And I guess our marketing team just wants to get the most out of the drone investment of me in the cornfield, but that's all I got. Yeah.
Awesome.
Fantastic. I want to thank our featured presenters, Matthew and Brent. We really, really appreciate you joining us for this 1-year celebration, and all of my co-leaders and all of you for enriching this user group. I want to encourage you, please, please, please present what you've worked on. There are so many ways that we all can learn from each other. And that is something that kind of encourages our own professional growth. So in that vein, please save the date, December 7th from 1 to 2 Central Time. Join our LinkedIn group on LinkedIn, the Advancement Tableau user group. You don't even have to be a Tableau user, you just have to be into analytics. Anyways, thank you all again, and we'll give you back a few more days. Anything else? A few more hour minutes. Anyone else have anything else y'all want to wrap up?
I am just going to throw out a plug for presenting at this TUG. It did a ton for me professionally. And if you are working on something and you think it's cool, but you're really not sure how to share it, or there's a lot of confidential data or whatever, reach out to any of the TUG leaders. But especially me, I love helping people figure out how to share their story. And we will work up a presentation for you and get your story out there in the world. So if you think you're doing something cool and you're not sure and you need cheerleading, or if you've done something and you're not sure how to turn it into a presentation, we are here for you as TUG leaders to get that amazing stuff out there.
I love that. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Take care.